Today we're going to start exporting our illustrations now that we've done all the shading and things like that. So this is just going to be a short video talking about file exports and just different file formats you may want to use to retain specific color information. So first I want to go over that all of this was done with mostly CMYK. It's a little saturated, so it's not going to be like a perfect print. I personally don't care about like a perfect one-to-one. I just want it to be within this a range. So I have a personal reference of I expect it to be like a couple shades darker or a couple shades lighter for certain areas. That's my threshold of what I determine to be acceptable. If you're someone that likes to be as one-to-one as possible, you may have to go back and tweak a few things if colors didn't come out right. So first, because these are going to be stickers, I need to crop these out and make them transparent. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my crop tool here. I'm just going to crop this one because I haven't done it yet. I'm going to go to my image properties and turn my background opacity down to 0. So now it's transparent. So to keep this transparency, we have a couple file formats we can use. We can use PDF, we can use TIFF, and we can use PNG. I normally use PNG just because it's easier to work with. However, PNG does not retain CMYK color profiles. A TIFF will. I don't always use TIFF just because this is all being printed at home, so I'm not like super caught up in file formats here. I have systems set up to do the color and everything after saving out. But if you want to keep that CMYK profile, I highly recommend using a TIFF or a PDF. I also believe that EPS is a file format you can use to retain your CMYK profile. So we're going to go ahead and send this out as a TIFF just to show you how it works, because it's not something I normally see people use. It's usually PNG, which is fine, but we're going to go for as correct as possible. So we're going to go to File Save As, and then under the Save As type, we can go down to TIFF. You can see it ends in .tif. Now, if you're coming from like the 3D world, TIFF is often used for textures. It's just usually the preferred format. It's something I've always used in 3D texture files. It's probably why I don't use it for printing stickers, because it's just like, oh, the stress of 3D. Like not bad memories, but just craziness. So these are the settings for the TIFF format. I am not going to save any layers, and I do want this image to be flattened, but I do want the alpha transparency to be saved. So we're gonna hit OK. So I went back to my folder where I saved this. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. All my zombie stuff and my testing. There it is. We have my zombie lady saved. All right, so we see this as a TIFF. So now I'm going to open this in Affinity Publisher, which is Affinity 2.0, I believe, just because I haven't converted over to the new version. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. So we're going to go to File and Place. I'm going to click on the CMYK or the TIFF. Oh my gosh, I'm going to click on the TIFF export I just had. You can see here it's transparent, so there's no white background or anything going on. So we can zoom in and take a look at how that looks pretty good. Now I'm also going to export a PNG version where it doesn't fully retain the CMYK, and we can see if there's a difference on screen. Alright, so I have placed I'm actually going to change this background color to a gray so we can see this a little bit better. 50% should be good, close enough. So right away, this is our PNG. This is our CMYK. You can see the color difference almost immediately. Now, if you have a little bit of color blindness or you struggle with seeing certain colors, you may not notice it, but I notice it immediately. So first of all, this green is a little bit more, it's not as yellow compared to this green. The hair is a little bit more orangey. It's like kind of more of a burnt orange than this red. And the brain color, I think because I kept my color wheel at CMYK, this is pretty close. There's a little bit of a difference. You can see it's very minimal. I think this is a little bit more magenta-y. But you can see this green color is just absolutely not the same. Magentas seem to be good. Don't know how that worked out, honestly. So I'm actually just going to crop this just so we can see the comparison. All right, so I lined this up as close as I could. But comparing the TIFF file, which is on the left, and the PNG, which is on the right, the PNG, remember, does not save the CMYK exactly as we like it, but the TIFF will. We can see that the color here is different. This is just a more yellowish, not a yellow, but more of a bluish green. And this is more of the yellow green. You can see with the yellowish highlights I have here, they're not as pronounced. They're almost kind of faded. You can see the hair color, totally different color here. You really see it in the lips. The lips look really good in the TIFF version, not so much in the PNG. So this is something you want to look at and compare before you go to print anything. Different printers have different outcomes. I will say when I first started printing things myself, reds were some of the worst to get right with CMYK. And I have seen other artists print things who didn't set things up properly, and it's always red is like one of the worst. Same with purples. I don't know what it is, but it's a limited color range, CMYK. If you have a higher end printer that has multiple inks in it, like the light cyan, pink, gray, usually those are really expensive photo printers. I used to have one from Epson before it died, I think, or I can't remember what the reason was for getting rid of it. I think I was moving, I couldn't take it with, but the high-end Epson printers do phenomenal with a really nice color range. I have currently an Epson Eco tank, and it's not bad, but I don't have that full color range that a normal photo printer would. So the higher end Eco tanks would work that have multiple colors that aren't just the CMYK. I think it's the light cyan, there's the photo black, and then there's black. It's like 5 to 6, 7 colors you have to put in there. I can't remember which, but that's going to affect your print as well. So if you're doing this at home and you're printing things at home and you just have a typical, not cheap printer, but it's like a nicer printer that only has the 4 color inks, then you really want to make sure with your preview here that your colors are as close to the CMYK profile as possible to get the best print quality. Because when I print these, I always export as PNG because I already know the threshold, because I have done this so many times, that this is not going to come out 1:1. This is going to come out a little bit darker. Some of the bright areas may be slightly washed out, but it's not something that makes the print look bad, so I'm okay with it. So if you are someone who really is picky about it, you need to make sure that you're setting up your files correctly and that you're doing everything you can to preview how it might look when it prints. There's still going to be a little bit of room for error. There are some professional printers even that just cannot print certain colors. I've seen it happen. I do not know why. Even people who do professional printing for a living and then use a different printer company for something, for their own personal projects, have seen this happen and they couldn't figure it out. So there's just going to be room for error no matter what, but you should definitely determine a threshold, or rather a tolerance for what you're okay with. Are you okay with this print being a little bit more on the lighter side? Would you prefer it to be more like the PNG? And if you do, you have to go back and tweak your settings. You know, go back and watch the tutorial about adjusting your colors and kind of tweak it to see if you can get as close to this as possible in the CMYK. So I went ahead and printed the zombie lady on my matte sticker paper that I get from Online Labels. This is what I use almost exclusively here. It just works for what I use and for my purposes. And it is water resistant, so it's nice. I like it. So this was printed on the Epson Eco Tank, which is the lower end version. I think it no longer is available to buy. It's $26.50. It's an older model, and it only has CMYK inks. So key black, cyan, yellow, and magenta. That's it. And you can see here, this is the TIFF. This is the version that retains CMYK information, which is what I used in Krita. And this is the PNG, which did not retain any CMYK information, even though I saved them out from the same file, just different file formats. I only put them into Affinity Publisher. I just resized and put them side by side, and then I went and printed them at the same time with the same print set. It's one print, you know, I printed it in one shot. So this is the exact same print settings. Nothing changed, nothing, I didn't alter anything. I think my default, actually no, my default setting is like upping the brightness by 1 for stickers, just because of the paper, but I don't think that really changed too much. You can still see the TIFF version versus the PNG is significantly different. This is much darker. This has more midtones, and the bright areas pop a lot more. Like you can see on her neck here, it almost just blends in, like it's just not there. And even in her face with the highlights on the nose, it is kind of there, but just looks more yellow versus like it's blended in properly. So this is a good real life example of what a TIFF CMYK versus a PNG, which doesn't do CMYK, color profiles, how much of a print difference that can do on a typical home printer that only can print CMYK, doesn't have any special photo inks or anything like that. So I do want to go over briefly the difference between Save As, Export, and Export Advanced. So when you Save As, we have all these file formats. These are just straight save to whatever these file formats are. You may have extra dialog boxes pop up for special settings. That's totally normal. Or hit cancel. If you go to File Export, it's the same file setup. I personally haven't seen a difference between Save As and Export. It kind of gives me the same system. But if you go to File Export Advanced, I don't know all the file formats offhand, but some of these will have extra settings that pop up with the dialog box. One of those is HDR. I was actually thinking about it. I'm like, you know, HDR files probably would have more options for an advanced export because of how they're used. I personally have only used them for like rendering backgrounds or environments for lighting and things like that. I don't have any experience using them outside of that. So I'm just going to show what that looks like. If we go to export, you can see we have a resize option. That this does not appear under the Save As or the typical export. So if you're saving out as certain file formats, you may have more options upon Export Advanced. Again, I don't know which file formats or how many of them have that, but this is just one example. So your homework today is just to save out your file, either with a transparency or without, depending on what you're using it for. And if you have any trouble with that, just let me know. Just let me know on my Discord server. And if you want to join, the link to join the Discord is in my description box below. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I will do my best to answer them. If you know of somebody who is getting ready to print their own artwork and they're not sure what file formats to use, definitely have them watch this video, especially to see the comparison between a PNG and a TIFF file and see how that color information differs between the two, especially with CMYK. And also because I print a version out and I show you what that example looks like and how it can affect your print just from like basic settings. I do have one more video coming up, just some tips for rendering and color and things like that. So if you don't want to miss that video, make sure to subscribe and I will see you then.